constantly like you're pounded in the head with like the idea, hey, you find your lifelong friends in college. But I don't know if that's necessarily true because like Alex said this a lot. It's like because you shouldn't hold college as like the peak of your life and then everything is downhill after that. Like your life can go up or down after college. It's just a matter of like how you take it. College is just like an impetus for like the continuation.
Like, honestly, college is a very transitionary time. But I remember saying that a lot freshman year. I don't know if I really believed it, but I think it's because I wanted that to be true, right?
Yeah.
Because I thought if this was to be the best time of my life, like my life's gonna be miserable because I'm already miserable now. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Nuanced Nonsense. This is your host Alex.
And your other host Ben.
Yeah, we're not experts, we just like talking, and today we have a special topic in mind.
Yeah, so making friends is like going into war. As you can see, we brought a brilliant prop just for this topic because, you know, the art of war talks about being like a good general and how you can like be, like you lead your men into like the right position in order to like succeed with the highest amount of probability, right? So making friends is like making these sort of like minor calculations in your head and like trying to figure out, hey, like what can I do to be a good friend as opposed to a good leader, right? Because like as Machiavelli said in The Prince, if you lead by fear, you will never be loved.
And to our Spotify listeners, we just have this book called The Art of War sitting right in front of us.
My friend got it for me for a Christmas present, and I was like, you know, the only part of this book that I like is The Art of War. I don't know jack shit about any of the other Eastern philosophy things.
The doctrine of the mean.
Yeah. So like I don't know jack shit. I just know The Art of War, and he bought it for me because he knows I like The Art of War. And so now we're using it as a nice physical prop.
Yeah, so that's something you can think about when you're making friends. But never say it out loud, or else you'll never make friends.
Also, this was a really troll intro bit that me and Alex were talking about, and we are like, you know what, let's just go into it like this.
Yeah, we don't know what we're doing. But yeah, something we wanted to talk about was kind of just like our college experience. I guess as seniors, we've been here for a while. This is our last semester, our 8th semester, so we've been here for 4 years. Yeah, so we kind of just like, one day we were just trolling around, you know, not sleeping, doing usual Ben and Alex stuff. And then we stumbled upon this blog post.
Actually, it is multiple blog posts.
We stumbled upon multiple blog posts. And it was kind of about the college experience, like what they went through freshman year. So both authors were pretty lonely freshman year, and they didn't have any friends. They didn't know anyone. The few friends they had kind of, you know, dipped or were doing other stuff. And they're kind of just like, you know, laying in their bedroom alone, staring at the dorm ceiling, just like, is my life going to be like this? College sucks. Where are all my lifelong friends? You know, stuff like that. And we had a pretty different reaction to both of them, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like the first one, we were like, oh, this is pretty good. It was very well written. There's a nice voice. Like you could really feel his loneliness and despair. And like when he like fortunes kind of like turned, he was able to adjust. You're like, you know, you really did feel happy for him. And then the other blog post was one of the most troll blog posts I ever read, and it was unintentionally troll.
Yeah, like they didn't mean it that way. It was written like you take like a journey from point A to point B, right? It felt like they just skipped like a part and they just arrived at point B all of a sudden.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the author, they were basically just kind of going for the same thing, not as well written, but it was still very sincere. But yeah, there was a lot of emphasis on how like they didn't like college. They were ready to transfer out after the first semester, even though they had like a perfect GPA. And then it just said, now it's junior year. And now I have my lifelong friends. I know who my group is. You know, we have inside jokes, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, and then they started giving like advice, you know, stuff like that. But I was like, well, how did you get from point A to point B? How did you get from freshman year to junior year, right? And looking back, I was like, even though the first blog post we talked about was very well written as well, they also didn't really focus too much on like what they did in the transition, right? They kind of just talked about like now they enjoy college, like it will get better, you know? Yeah. It was kind of like an encouraging note versus like a set of instructions like the first two blog posts. But I guess me and Ben, like we kind of emphasize with these like authors. I definitely was in their shoes where I kind of felt like you know, I didn't really have any friends coming into college. even in high school, like I felt pretty alone, and I was kind of just like, so freshman year was pretty hard on me. And I was like, everyone seems like they're so close, but like, where are my friends? You know. And then I guess you can talk about.
Yeah, like for me it was less freshman year and more high school focused, because high school for me was more like I didn't fit in. Like it wasn't even like if you meet me now versus when you meet me then, it's like very, very different. Like people who have known me in this gap like see it. It's like starkly like noticeable. Today I even had some friends that are like, wow, you look so different from freshman year. And I didn't feel like that is very true. However, like that's what they said. Anyway, like high school was like a really rough time. It felt like I was self-isolated because I didn't get along with people super well, and I didn't have like the people skills I have nowadays. And it's just like, it was really tough digging yourself out of that hole, because like not only are you digging it for yourself, like you don't realize that you are.
Yeah, I guess like for me, kind of talking a little about my high school background, I was also like, I never hung out with friends. I just went to my extra, like I swam for the first 2 years and I did orchestra. So the only time I really saw my friends were in that setting, right? But at first it didn't really, I mean, it bothered me a little bit. Like, I guess growing up, I never really got used to inviting friends to hang out. Like when I was really young in elementary school, my mom did all of that. And then obviously when you get to a certain age, your mom can't really do that anymore. Yeah. So then I just never invited people. And then I remember like when I was young, my mom used to like my mom still wants to throw birthday parties for me. But like, I remember she would until I was like 12. But then I stopped doing it because I kind of felt like all the people who she like invited who were my quote unquote friends, like they didn't even want to be there. Like he even kind of like acted like, or he even kind of said to me just like, oh, your mom's this and that, like I wouldn't be here otherwise, blah blah blah. And I was kind of just like, dang. And then
that's a really harsh reality to face at 12 years old.
Yeah, then I just stopped having birthday parties because I was just like, nobody wants to come to my stuff anyway. I don't really like being the center of attention anyway. But yeah, basically after that, every birthday I would just sit alone in my living room. I guess my parents were in the house still, so not completely alone, but just watch the sunset as I did nothing. This is partially inflicted, but also no one really cared to ask, like, what are you gonna do for your birthday? Until last summer, I invited 2 people over for anime, and that was
Dude, I feel like that is a massive step up.
Yeah, that's definitely a massive step. And like, just sit. I didn't even watch anime on my birthday. I would just on the birthdays in the past, I would just sit there and just be like, dang, I wish people like did something. Because like in college people would be like, oh yeah, let's surprise this person on this birthday, or like let's like invite them all for dinner, or let's go drink, like go to Six or something. And I'm like, yeah, I don't do that because my birthday's in the summer. But that's just an excuse, but it's kind of just like, dang, I just feel like there's this big barrier, right? But yeah, so kind of growing up, I've always never really felt like I had real friends or lasting friends. And then so in high school, I kind of just assumed that everyone was like me. Like we were all just studying, working hard, and not hanging out. And it was only until senior year when I realized this was wrong. People were hanging out. They just didn't invite me. And I was like, dang, who are my real friends, right? Because like if you're friends with someone, like when you want to hang out with them,
yeah,
like that only makes sense, right? So I mean, senior year, me and Nolan, he's been on the podcast before. We kind of had a lot of talks about like, what does it mean to be an adult, or what does it mean to grow up and mature, right? Because we're still kids right now, even in college. But I guess especially in high school, we were definitely like, yeah, we don't know what we're doing like at all. So we were kind of just like talking about what it meant to have friends, differences between boys and girls. Like we were like having all these conversations you should have like earlier in high school, but in senior year. And we were kind of just talking a lot about like self-awareness and loneliness, and kind of just like, what does it mean to value relationships and stuff like that. So going to college, I was already on this mindset, right? Like I was kind of like, okay, maybe I didn't have a great relationship with my high school friends back then, but like maybe they'll all come to UT with me and we can actually be good friends, we can hang out all the time, right? And then that didn't happen because most of them kind of went around. Like a lot of them went out of state, or they didn't get into UT. So I was kind of like, crap. I guess I knew some people going into UT, like my roommate, but we weren't super close. And my roommate situation is a whole nother story. But basically, I kind of just walked into UT and be like, dang, like I'm not from a small town, but it feels like I don't really know anybody.
You had like the rose-colored lenses going into college.
Basically, like there's this anime with like the Tommy Galaxy, right? And like I haven't actually watched it, but I watched the movie related to it, and it's kind of talking about like like, oh, college gonna be so fun. I'm gonna make all my friends, like the perfect campus life. That was my view of college coming in, and it was quickly shattered within like the first month. I'll get more into that after, I guess, like Ben can talk about maybe some of what he was coming into college. But
yeah. I relate to that a lot. Like I felt my high school was like very dominated by cliques. I mean, that's normal for any high school, especially big public high schools. I went to like a huge high school. It was like the graduating class was like 1,400 people.
yeah,
1,400 is 1,400.
my high school
right?
was only like 400 people graduating.
That's wild.
Yeah, and like at first it was like 600 people or like 596. That was too big for them because Frisco, because like that's the city where my school is in. Frisco believes in small school sizes, so they keep on like building new schools. Like I think we have like 12 or 14 high schools. It's ridiculous, but
That's wild.
yeah. So basically, that's why we only have 400 people. But like Plano, they have like 3 senior highs. And they're all massive. But yeah, continue.
Anyway, so it's super dominated by cliques, and even nowadays I meet people that went to my high school that I didn't even know like existed, period. It's kind of wild. But like, so I was never, because of like so Plano has your school separated into 9th, 10, and 11, 12. 9, 10 is junior high. 11, 12 is senior high. In 9, 10, like I was just not able to like break into any cliques, right? So I always felt like an outsider, and that's why I was self-isolated. And then going into 11th and 12th, like even though I became more self-aware and I sort of like broke out of my own shell, I still like didn't have like an outlet for it. Like I would always tell, like one of my friends helped me through it, and they were just like, you need to be more intentional with people. You need to talk to people, like initiate conversation, make eye-to-eye contact, sort of like life coaching me through it. And then like just, I had no outlet for it though. It was really hard because everyone was already in their sort of like pre-assumed cliques. And so it was like, you couldn't really shatter this like barrier that keeps like the outsiders outside, And so coming into college, I was just like always longing for like my own friend group, or not even friend group, but just like my own set of friends, like that I can call my own,
Yeah.
Because like I hadn't really felt that. I was just
Like
sort
a
of
place
like,
to belong. Basically.
Yeah. And so coming into freshman year, I was super like zealous about just like meeting everyone and anyone. And so like that's how I met like just a ton of random people. I would hang out in like the dorm lobby. I hung out in the dorm lobby a lot, and that's how I got to know like a bunch of like all these random people, and they just like act, and like I run into them nowadays, and other people are like, oh, how do you know X, Y, or Z person? And I'm just like, oh, I met them in the dorm lobby in freshman year.
Like
so
nothing flashy.
Yeah. So my freshman year wasn't like super like down per se, but it was like a discovery period. Like in the sense that like I felt like a very whimsical child,
Yeah.
Like it felt like I was just experiencing these for the first time when I should have experienced it before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. Like, so that's why on this podcast, like, we're gonna kind of talk about, I guess, like every year of college, like kind of what it's been like for us, and like kind of like what we've learned and grown in it, especially in terms of like friendships and relationships and like loneliness.
Yeah, actually, it wasn't my freshman year that was bad. It was my sophomore year when I had like a slump. I feel like.
Because I think a lot of times, like, I guess blogs kind of assume your freshman year is bad and it gets up from there. But like, I really believe that stuff is cyclical. Or it goes ups and downs, right? And it's like, it's okay if you don't figure things out sophomore year, or even like senior year, you don't figure things out, as long as you're still trying to learn from it, right? So I think like, like we're just trying to tell our experience and just let you know that like, things don't have to be on an up curve all the time,
Yeah.
So things go round and round. But I guess I can start.
Go for it.
So like my freshman year, I already kind of changed the mindset I had. I think what was really hard was like you have to find roommates really early in the college, and usually you just room with your high school friends because you don't know anybody really.
Yeah, basically.
And the problem
that
is,
or you go random.
Yeah, you go random. So the problem is, I didn't have enough high school friends to form like a 4-person apartment that everyone had like 2 people. Like it'll be like a 2x2 with 2 people in each room. I didn't really know enough, or I guess we weren't really a friend group, so I couldn't really do that. So Wait, were you originally considering living off campus instead of on campus? Oh, for like
Wait, are you talking about freshman year or sophomore year?
Freshman year.
Mm.
Yeah, but I'm talking about for the next year. So like freshman year, I already. So
this
freshman.
is in freshman.
This is in freshman year. Yeah. So I guess we can kind of just go like freshman year, sophomore year,
Sure.
sophomore year, junior year. Yeah. So we'll take turns. But so I guess like for me, yeah. So I lived in the dorm. At first, my parents didn't want me to live in the dorm because I had
Really?
I had food allergies and stuff.
Oh.
So they were just really worried about stuff like that. But I think UT has like an online allergen menu or something, and they were kind of just like, you know what? I guess Alex should experience what college life is like because, yeah, if you really want to live in the dorm, we'll let you. So I did.
Once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah. So I did end up living in the dorm. So me and this high school friend, we decided to room together, but he wasn't the greatest roommate, and I guess there was some parental argument we had when we moved in.
So it's like soured the relationship.
Yeah,
There.
so like I'm not gonna get too much into detail, but basically like my room isn't like completely. The room wasn't completely even. So like my side of the room, I ended up having to pick was like more cramped because like it wasn't a perfect square. Like part of it juts out because it was on the edge of the wall.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah. So it was like my bed, and then right next to the bed was the desk. Right next to the desk was the closet. While on his side, he had the bed, the desk, and some space before the closet. Right. So then they kind of just came in first, picked the better side, didn't tell us. Honestly, I think at that point in my life, I didn't really think about like I didn't really think that people were taking advantage of me or like trying to harm me or like do stuff like that. I was just kind of like, oh, that sucks, but it's whatever, right? But my parents are like, I guess they've always had to look out for themselves because you know they're from Hong Kong and they immigrated here, so they're kind of just like, oh, this person is taking advantage of us. You know, like before all of this, like they kept on asking us for like rides to Austin and stuff like that. So my parents are already kind of like, we don't really know you, but we have to do so many favors for you. So it's kind of just like they already didn't have a good feeling about it. So then my mom kind of just burst out, like really mad. She shouldn't have done that, but she was already she was really like, she has it's hard for her to control a temper. And like, I understood that she was just only trying to do the best for me. But basically she just got really angry and then they started yelling. They started, you know, accusing each other of stuff. It was pretty messy. And then like, I guess after that, you know, my roommate's obviously not going to like my mom. So whenever my parents visit, they're like, why do your parents visit so much? You know, like you would never say it because like it's because of what happened. You just be like, oh, you know, it's such a long drive, you know. And then like it made me ashamed of like my parents like visiting me. Like even though I should like, appreciate the fact that they love me enough to like drive themselves, like I was like, oh, like I'll just make sure my parents come when he's sleeping or when he's not at home, you know, because like I don't want them to interact at all. And like him, like those comments and like him just being really messy and like he was always in the room. And like, you know, if you're sharing a room with someone, like sometimes you just want the room to yourself.
Yeah.
You just need some alone time. He was just always there. And then he was like just always playing like League at like late night. This was before my degenerate sleeping schedule. So like at 3, like I always like I could turn over and just see like the laptop light just on in like a complete pitch dark room. I remember there was even one time like we were hanging out and we came back and like the room was dark and like you didn't even know my roommate was there.
Yeah, so I walked in.
Yeah, I turned on the lights and he's just sitting there in his boxers.
No, like not only did he make no noise or like movement to me entering, like when I came in, he still didn't look at me.
Yeah, and it was just like
it was very odd for me.
Yeah. So then it was just like it was just really sad because like we ourselves did not have a big argument, but our relationship just kind of like deteriorated, you know. Like he's not a bad person. Like I'll see him on the street sometimes. We'll say hi. Like it's all right, but it's like I couldn't really live with this person for like
unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah, I just couldn't live with this person, right? But it's like it's kind of hard for me to like tell other people that at the time because I was ashamed of what happened with like our moms basically, and then ashamed that like our relationship that we just stopped talking. So I guess I kind of acted like I had a random roommate, but I didn't. But yeah, so basically I just remember like I was always trying to find a roommate because one thing I was really looking forward to was like living with friends, you know, like having like late night talks or just hanging out, like not having to be alone because there would always be like people in the apartment to just hang out and like play games with or whatever. So and like nobody wanted to room with me because like they didn't know me or like maybe I just wasn't cool enough to like for them to like want to actually live with me, and that really hurt me, you know, because like I would see other people like there was this like one group of guys, they were like, you know, some apartments they have like names, like they have like
It's actually obnoxious sometimes.
Yeah. Like that rubbed me off the wrong way because to me they were like flaunting like they're like, oh yeah, like I came into college, I already have my group of friends, we're super buddy. Like one of them was like transferring into UT. He wasn't even at the school, and he was already more beloved in like or like social sphere or whatever. I don't want to say a friend group, but like he was already more beloved in that circle than I was, right? And I was just like, dang, is something wrong with me? Like I just really felt bad. So a lot of freshman year was like I was just checking out different ministries,
Different orgs?
I think mainly ministries. I didn't actually check out orgs until sophomore year.
Oh.
Part of it was just like it was comfortable. Yeah, going into college, like high school, I was not against drinking, but for whatever reason, the freshman year, I got scared of drinking, and I just thought all these orgs would like make me an alcoholic, or like I would like, you know, I read too much like I read too what's that hazing. I read too much like stories about hazing and like how they would make you drink to death, and like I heard FSA was pretty like drink heavy or whatever, so I was like, crap, like I can't join these orgs, you know, like obviously now I don't really care, but like freshman year I was like that, so like I just stuck to like these ministries because like that's what I was comfortable with, right? And at the time, like I guess my faith is a lot stronger now, but honestly I was really only joining these ministries to have friends, right? I just thought it would be something familiar, like my church youth group back home. But even then, like, so I basically for the whole year I was involved in these two ministries. It's called, one was Epic and one was Asian American Campus Ministry. So basically, I think Epic is considered to be like more quiet at UT at least. It's obviously each school is different. So there's different Asian universities, different like Epics across the U.S. But at our school, like ACM was more outgoing and like the more cool kids who happened to be religious, happened to be Christian, and then Epic was the more quiet kids who were Christian. So I was like, oh, I'm quiet and I'm awkward and I'm introverted. I should join Epic. And it was just, I remember joining it and like, I'm not saying like they were unfriendly or they didn't like me or whatever or unwelcoming, but I just didn't feel like I belonged. Like a lot of them were from Houston at the time. So mainly Houston, some Austin people, and like they all like knew each other, you know, or they mostly knew each other. So like,
oh, so it felt like you came into something pre-existing.
Yeah. So a lot of times I feel like it's like in college, like friend groups are just merging together, right? And like the problem is I didn't have a friend group, I just had myself, you know. So I was like, and I'm a shy person, so it's like it's kind of hard for me to be like, oh, can I just insert myself in this conversation? Because I remember in high school I was like, I looked down on those people who like weren't self-aware or like were really like weird. So I was like I didn't want to be a hypocrite and do that. So then I just sat there hoping that someone would invite me, which they didn't. So then I remember just thinking like, oh, like I don't even belong in this sphere. I can't get a roommate. You know, I ended up like finding some people to room with that I wasn't friends with, but I think I just really wanted a roommate. But then that fell through because like our apartment application got messed up, and then they placed two random people into like the apartment, and then one of the guys was like, oh, actually like I just need people to like be in my apartment, so I don't really care, like if that's okay with y'all. And then I guess I was kind of just like, I mean, if that's how it's gonna be, then fine. Like I don't want to live with you. Or I was like, it's just hard for me to be like, no, it's not fine, you know. So then I just ended up living with random people for my sophomore year. But so basically, yeah, like it was hard for me to be like tell people like I'm living with random people, because then they would be like why are you living with random people? Like why would you do that to yourself? And I was kind of just like, well, I didn't have a choice, you know. And then there are already people like I remember because like some of my like friends I met in like ACM, they're talking about like living on campus again, like kind of living in the same dorm. And then they're already thinking about, okay, so it's junior year we'll live like with these people for apartments. And I was like, I can't even do that for next year, you know. So I was just like, there's so much self-comparison going on, there's so much toxicity. Like I was actually like really sad my freshman year, and I felt like I didn't belong in the group I was supposed to belong. So now it's kind of just like I think at this point I started becoming more interested in like the actual purpose of a ministry. So like I guess becoming more spiritual and stuff like that. So that was kind of just like, so I kind of picked ACM because I liked the deals and stuff for like they talked a lot about ethnicity and faith. So I was like, okay, like that sounds like something like I want to learn more about. And then eventually I was like, oh, these people, yeah. The art of war, Eastern culture. But eventually I was like, oh, these people aren't too bad. Like I learned to like, I was afraid these cool kids would judge me for being not cool, but I was really judging them for being what I thought was cool. And I was like, they'll never like me, right? But they were still like...
Oh, so this is sort of like self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, it was definitely a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like I'm not going to say that like I was rebuffing every advance because there was legitimately like not that many like advances toward me, but I also realized that like I wasn't really being friendly either. Like I have eczema and an RBF, so I was probably intimidating for people to like reach out to me, which is unfortunate because like that's not like my choice, but it's reality. So yeah, basically I guess I kind of became a little bit more self-aware about the situation. I was like, yeah, it does suck that like I did feel alone, but it's not like everyone's fault, you know? Like I realized that I shouldn't just blame this. At the moment I was like, I shouldn't just blame this on people because like they're not bad people once you talk to them. So yeah. I guess freshman year ended up on a more hopeful note. Like I decided to join ACM. I kind of just like finished I still came out to some epic stuff just cause, but I guess freshman year I was like, okay, I think I found my place. I wasn't too assured with that group, but I was like I'll come out to that stuff sophomore year. And yeah, I think that's kind of how my freshman year was. But yeah, this was kind of long, but we can switch over to Ben right now.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, my freshman year was like, I definitely came in with rose-colored lenses. I was like, oh, I'm gonna like, I remember one of the first things I did with one of my friends was, we're gonna meet one new person every day, but not just like meet them enough to like be able to interact with them normally and get their contact information. And it was like, at first we were like it was super easy for us because like there was so many people to meet and we were both super like zealous to do it, right? Because like for me, like the desire to like not re-experience high school was greater than like my introvertism. So I was just like, you know what, fuck it, we have to like, you know, like full send it, you know?
Yeah.
And so like that like played a large part into like how I met like this one friend group I spent a lot of my freshman year with. And like back then, like I like, even though I drink a lot now, back when I first entered college, I was such anti-alcohol. I was like, you become so dumb when you drink, like yada, yada, yada. And then also a lot of the hazing articles like really got to me too. And so the first party I went to with like this was like the beginnings of my friend group. We went to this party and a lot of us like, that would later become this friend group. Were like, no, let's leave early. This is bad. We like literally took like just like a small sip of the punch and we're like, this is poison.
I guess alcohol is technically a poison.
It is technically poison, but we're like, no, this is no benefits. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, this is like, we went to a popular like party place like in West Campus, and it, like there was a line to get in when we left. So like we like lost out on a good opportunity, I guess. But anyway, it turned out to be even more valuable because the opportunity cost of staying there would be not meeting these people that I met. And so I met like the friend group that I was gonna like, that like it was like the rumblings, you know, the beginnings. And so
the origin story.
And basically as like time went on, just like more serendipitous stuff happened. Like as we started hanging out, we would just random events occur and we'd run into other people and eventually like we formed this friend group. And I spent like quite literally almost all of my time with them, like just day and night, because we would like sit in the dorm lobby and just hang out. But then as like time went on, like I started to go like, hey, like I spent like so much time with these people, but like on a real note, like I don't know them.
So like you hung out with them, but you didn't really know who they really were. Like
yeah, I didn't know where I stood in their life.
Like, so you're like, okay, these people are close to me, but am I close to them?
Not even necessarily they're close to me. It's just that like I spent time with them. Like one time, one of the people in the friend group, like they're a little bit more blunt. So they were like talking about how like our friendship was like built upon convenience.
Okay.
Which was not necessarily like false or true at the time, because it's like hard to extrapolate whether that is true or not, right?
Yeah.
But at the moment it seemed like that. And in the moment it like really like damaged me, because I was like, I don't know how close I am to you guys, and like hearing that like we might not even be friends past this year is like, oh shit, you know? Like what did I spend all this time doing?
Yeah.
Because like spending time with this friend group means like, you know, opportunity cost. You don't spend time doing other stuff. And so like I wasn't really like looking for like orgs or anything, because I was like, oh, I thought I found my people already.
Yeah.
And so like I went to like this sort of mental state where I was like, fuck, you know, how do I get to know these people? And I didn't really know how to go about doing that. I remember in high school, a big crutch that I used, because like I didn't really know how to ask people for it, was like question games, you know?
Like, give an example.
Like, you know, like Truth or Dare?
Yeah.
But like everyone just picks Truth. Or like Hot Seat, or like some variation of this where it's like you're sort of like put on spot to answer these questions, and it's like the question is like whatever like the audience would like it to be. So it's like I didn't know how to just like have these conversations normally with people.
Yeah.
And so I went on this huge thing, and I just like tried to like get an individual meal with all of these people in my friend group and just like hang out with them, try to get to know them better.
Yeah.
And I probably came off as like a little much at the time, but I think it was like it like eased my worries.
Yeah.
Because then I was like I actually mean something to these people, as opposed to like it being simply convenience.
Yeah.
Though convenience played a part in how like our friendship started. But like a manga chapter we talked about before, like just because like you start something out of like, you know, like bad intentions or like yada yada, if it's genuine by the end, that's all that matters.
Yeah, for sure.
But, and so eventually it like developed into something genuine, because I'm still friends with all of them today.
Yeah.
And so like I think sometimes, even though like I guess this could be like seen as like a grass is greener on the other side sort of mentality thing, because like if you see other people and they're like constantly hanging out with their friends, like as like my friend group was seen, things aren't always good.
Like, yeah, you still had like those insecurities, and then your friend still said like, I guess offhandedly said, oh, this is still a relationship of convenience.
Yeah.
Like pictures don't capture those conversations.
Yeah.
And even videos, like those could be staged. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like that was like a major concern for me, and I had a lot of like insecurities about that. I was like, how like deep are these friendships that I'm creating, and do they like carry like long-term value or like potential? I guess values is like a little too economic of like a definition, but like do they like have the potential to go long-term? Because like constantly like you're pounded in the head with like the idea, hey, you find your lifelong friends in college, but I don't know if that's necessarily true, because like Alex said this a lot. It's like, because you shouldn't hold college as like the peak of your life and then everything is downhill after that. Like your life can go up or down after college. It's just a matter of like how you take it. College is just like an impetus for like the continuation.
Like, honestly, college is a very transitionary time. But I remember saying that a lot freshman year. I don't know if I really believed it, but I think it's because I wanted that to be true, right? Because I thought if this was supposed to be the best time of my life, like my life's gonna be miserable, because I'm already miserable now. So I remember, I guess me and Nolan were talking, because he was also having a tough time transitioning into college, because he went out of state. So we were kind of just like, yeah, maybe college just isn't it for us, you know, like this really sucks. Like I think the things that kept me through the semester was like I just talked with him a lot for that second half. And it was just us complaining, but knowing that like someone was going through the same stuff as me at the time, like really helps.
Solidarity.
Like, because I really thought that like, dude, is it just because I'm a loser? Like, I was like, what's wrong with me? You know,
it's okay. You're not a loser.
Thank you. That's why we started this podcast, to boost myself.
Good. But yeah, to continue on my little tangent, like freshman year was, for me, like the theme of freshman year was like new experiences, just new everything. And so there's a lot of that going on in freshman year. But like, as all good things like start and end, like everything that's like that starts must end, right?
Yeah.
And so like, as my freshman year is wrapping up, when like we're all getting ready to live off campus, that's when like things started peaking down. I guess I'll like drop into sophomore year now because it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's basically like things just became a lot less convenient, right?
Yeah.
And so it made it a lot harder. Like you have to be a lot more intentional about doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like what sort of like, that was like the biggest bump in the road for like this friend group, right? Like we met up in sophomore year, I think twice. One at the end of each semester.
As a whole group?
As a whole group.
Okay.
Nowadays we just hang out like whatever groups we want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
we don't need to get the whole group together.
Okay, yeah.
But like I think it was part of it was because in freshman year the whole group was just always there. Like the rendezvous point was always set. Yeah. You'd always just like come back to this point and someone would be there.
Okay, yeah.
And then you just slowly just gather up as the night went on. And so like sophomore year there was no rendezvous point. There was no like stuff. Like everyone was busy. Everyone was like figuring their lives out. Because then it's like freshman year is like a discovery period. You can kind of like coast or like do nothing. There's not any serious ramifications, right?
Yeah.
And then sophomore year is when things pick up, right? Like you can start to get internships because you're not a freshman. You can like start to do serious things and like orgs.
You take harder classes. Yeah.
You take harder classes. Like that's the first time you take like upper division classes.
Yeah, you're not just repeating like AP classes.
Yeah. And so like shit started to get real and we just all were like stressed out about our own stuff. And so we didn't know how to like keep this going. And so we just sort of like let it falter and like simmer out. And I just remember I was like, damn, like it felt like that for a lot of like these friendships I had built in freshman year because like a lot of them were built on like very shaky foundations, right? It's just like getting like meals with people, talking to people, but it's like there was no like solid foundation set. So when like adversity hit in like sophomore year, a lot of them came crashing down.
Yeah. Because
like there was no foundation, so just like a slight push knocked it all over. And that was like I feel like kind of true for my like freshman year friend group because it wasn't set up properly to succeed going into this next year.
It was a house built on like weak foundation.
Yeah, and so like sophomore year was like a really feels bad time for me because like my roommate situation, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. Like we just really didn't talk to each other. So it was like really hard for me to decompress this as well.
So you didn't have an outlet.
I didn't have an outlet, and it's just like happening to me. So I'm just like, fuck, you know? And then like, even though we're all like within a block of each other, like if you graphed it out, we all lived like a block away from each other. It's like that block meant like so much distance. It was like an ocean.
Yeah. Because
like when we lived in the dorms, we could like walk in our pajamas like down the floor to like find each other, right?
Oh yeah. Remember y'all had matching sweatpants or whatever.
Holy, that was actually really dumb.
Yeah.
Long story short, we all bought matching sweatpants and went to the cafeteria in matching sweatpants and we looked like buffoons. But anyway.
People I would have hated. Yeah, but anyway.
Like we no longer flaunted our friendship nearly as much because it was like very weak at this point in time.
There wasn't much to flaunt.
Yeah. And so like everything that like I thought was like super good about this was like coming crashing down. I was just like, oh, this is super sad. And I didn't really have like a super solid backup plan, I would say. And so that was like a really big L. But then it also like sophomore year taught me a lot about how to be intentional with people, right?
Yeah.
You can't just like expect things to happen to you or like good things happen to you just because like, you know, you're feeling bad, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's something we watch Casually Explained a lot. And one thing that we constantly reference is like you can't expect someone to add value to your life without adding value to their life.
Yeah.
And so that taught me a lot about like being intentional and like reaching out to people and like really putting in the energy and time in maintaining a friendship.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just like build a house out of bricks and then like expect it to like always weather the storm, you know? There's maintenance that involves like keeping up a house. And so that's like the maintenance of friendship is what I slowly learned over time. And sophomore year was like that sort of period where I was like, fuck, you know, like you just gotta like make the most out of what you have because like even if you have nothing, like you can have something, I guess.
Yeah. Like literally make the most of what you have. I guess like learn to see value in what you're given, the cards you're dealt.
Basically. Yeah. And so sophomore year was it was a slump for me also like kind of academically, so that didn't help.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of those things compounded and I was just like really like sad. But then like things turned around in the end. Like forward to like junior or sophomore year. But I think a lot of what I want like listeners to like understand is that like this sounds super cliche, but just because things are bad doesn't mean they'll always be bad.
Mm-hmm. And just because things are always good doesn't mean they'll always be good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Ben kind of went from like having a relatively good freshman year compared to a lot of people to like, you know, when people would like, yeah, he literally had a sophomore slump, right?
Yeah.
So then like, you know, things went kind of down from there and he was struggling.
Like it felt like I was Icarus, you know, I flew too close to the sun and I came crashing down.
Yeah. And I guess that also must have really sucked too, because like, I guess you thought you made it too, right?
Yeah, like there was
high school.
Like there was, yeah. I thought like that was the biggest thing for me. It was like, oh, I had finally escaped like this, like high school thing that felt like it was dragging me down because I never felt like I got that high school experience.
Yeah.
And then so I was like, I like got out and I was like on the rise, and then just the fact that you fall from so high, like makes it feel even worse.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, there was still some good stuff.
There was a lot of good stuff, but it was like, if you look at my sophomore year as like in its totality, like I think this was like a huge thing that affected me mentally.
Yeah.
Is like not like just letting this falter and like letting it become so weak to the point where it's like it could have just like snapped and went away.
Yeah, but I guess you'll get into when you talk about your junior year.
Yeah.
But I guess there were foundations laid for like junior year, like your FSA family and stuff like that. But and I guess TASA. But yeah, I guess for my sophomore year, it wasn't super great, but it was definitely better than freshman year. Mainly because I just lowered my standards. The bar was very low. I think something that helped was like when I found out that I'll be living with you, because we kind of agreed to live with each other kind of pretty early on.
Because like going into sophomore year, I already knew my roommate situation was gonna fall apart. Because like one of the guys was like, oh, I have to like figure out like something about like my brother coming here or something, and then like another guy was like he dipped, and so we had a random.
Oh yeah.
And so like it just was like you could already tell it was gonna fall apart like at some point.
Yeah. So I remember we got a meal. I remember we hung out a bit even before I had any idea we were going to.
But it was like really like here and there.
Yeah, it was really here and there. It was just kind of like we ran into each other, or like I guess I never initiated anything. So it's more like when he was like, "Oh, I haven't talked to Alex in a while," then we would hang out. I wouldn't say we were close back then, but I think it was an effect of like you trying to be intentional with like the people you met freshman year. So yeah, we met at orientation, and then we sporadically talked to each other freshman year. We were actually about to live with each other sophomore year, but I was too late, I think.
Yes. So I was living with one of my roommates from sophomore year, and like we were looking for 2 more people, and in that time I like asked Alex and another one of my friends, and they both like were too late. Yeah, and so like then those 2 other people were brought in.
Yeah, because at the time I was still very I guess emotionally dependent on my parents. So I was like, oh, I should ask, right? Honestly, it doesn't really matter. And they're they didn't know this dude, so they're kind of just like, they just wanted to know a lot. And basically by the time I was like, you know what, we're not getting married. I just need someone to live with who I kind of know. That's better than what I have. They're like, fine. But then it was too late. Because your friend already found 2 other people.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up in my random roommate situation. But I remember we grabbed a meal and we were like, I think you asked me offhandedly. I think at this point, I basically just gave up on roommates. So I was just like, yeah, I live with random people. And that was it. And then I think you said, I think I might live with my roommates again, but it might fall through. And I didn't really think anything of it because I was like, no one wants to live with me, so it doesn't matter, you know? So basically around like October, you sent me this long Facebook message about living together. Like I could tell you were nervous, I think.
Yeah.
But honestly, I remember I was with a friend, and then I guess he kind of saw the message.
Was I explaining like my roommate situation?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's how I could tell you were nervous. But then I was like, oh, someone wants to live with me. Like this, I never thought this would happen. And then also, I kind of understood where you're coming from because I would be nervous too, right? Like I would have to ask this kind of question in person because I would just be too anxious to wait to see if they read the message or not. So, but basically I was like, yeah, I'm down. And that was it. And then we met up and talked about roommate stuff, but basically we decided to live with each other, and I mean that process was pretty chill. I mean, we just found this place eventually, but I think that really helped sophomore year, because then I kind of was like, I mean, I'm not close to this guy, but at least I'm like relatively like we're friends.
It's not a stranger.
We're friends on some basis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think I have a pretty like my definition of friendship is always changing, because like I'm insecure in my relationships, but I was like, he's definitely a step above a stranger. So I was kind of just like, I felt like I had a check mark off of college, right? Like live with a friend, you know?
Yeah.
So I felt pretty good, but I think sophomore year for me was like, I started checking out orgs, because I was like, oh, I don't want to just hang out with, I guess, Christians all the time. Like, I think this isn't even just a religious thing, but like, I guess only hanging out with like one type of group is like not good for you.
Yeah.
Because you get tunnel vision, basically.
Yeah.
It becomes like an echo chamber. So I checked out VSA and some like CS tech group. I got to know my CS friends better. Those orgs I didn't really get that involved in, because school got really busy. Like, I think for CS majors, sophomore year is actually your hardest year. I mean, the other years can be harder if you choose to take those hard classes, but for the most part, you take.
Are these like the weed out classes?
Honestly, like, the way CS is structured, you're already too far into your degree. So I don't want to call it a weed out class, but it kind of is, yeah. Like, some people do like just drop out of CS when they reach these classes, but like, I was really busy, so I wasn't able to actually make friends with these people. Like, something I realized, like, I was going to a lot of these socials, like, for the whole VSA org, but I didn't actually know my family, because I didn't come out to a single family event. So then, like, how these socials are structured is that you hang out with your family and you get closer like that.
Yeah.
And then you might interact with some other people outside your family, or these families merge or like mix or whatever. But I was basically going in like actually knowing nobody, right? And it was like, I tried doing this for like all first semester, but it was just really tiring, like going through the same thing over and over again. Like, I'd meet like one person every time, and then I would like never see them again. So then I was like, what's the point? So I guess friend group situation was still the same for the most part. I guess ACM was like, it was better. I got to know some of those people more. I was more comfortable around them, and I got put in a pretty good small group. I was also like trying to be more active in the ministry. So I was like, I did something called AV, which is kind of like you kind of help control the sound, because like I guess in like Christian fellowships they like to play music a lot to do worship and gospel. So you need someone to help turn the audio system on and like kind of make sure like the singer is like pretty like audible, or like you can hear the singer, or like if the guitar is playing, like focus on the guitar. So I did that. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just wanted to participate. But that was a good experience too. But I think in that time I got to know what it was like to be mentored by someone. There was my small group leader, and there was some older guy in my small group. They both really helped me. Like, I guess the small group leader especially, like, she was kind of like the older sister I never really had.
That sounds like some anime shit.
It was. It's almost okay. It's kind of like your friend who like taught you how to make friends.
Oh, yes.
Okay, honestly, I don't know if like we're that close for me to call her an older sister, but she meant and she means a lot to me.
She had an impact on you.
She had an impact on my life, and same with the other guy. Like, so everyone that's small group was like older, and like they knew the ways of the world. Not really, but like they knew college. Like they've seen a lot. So I think in a way, like I was kind of like a freshman again, because like I was the youngest person in that small group. I was the only sophomore, so I was like, I got to talk to them about what I was going through. I didn't really open up, but like I kind of just opened up to like the small group leader and the older guy, and then there was some other guy in my small group as well who was like, he was like the opposite of me, where like he was really involved in like campus life. He like trying new things. I like the idea of trying new things, not actually doing it. Like I talk the talk, and I don't walk the walk. Don't be like me. But so even seeing people like that, I was like, I felt like at least at the very least I was learning a lot, And then I like there's like a really hard CS class that I took my spring semester. That's basically when you meet all the CS people, because at that point you're kind of like, you just know who's in like your class a little bit, or like you kind of just do things by yourself. But that class is really hard, that like you kind of have to like work with other people, or you have to get to know other people in the lab. Like you're not cheating per se, but it's like you need groups are helping other groups. So that's how you kind of know everyone, like your section basically. So in a way, I kind of got to have like a CS friend group in a way, but that was never really anybody's main friend group. Like they were kind of like really good. Like I like to call these things like primary, secondary, tertiary, whatever. Like kind of people like, when people say like I have my work friends, my school friends, my church friends, my rock climbing friends or something. Like it was kind of like that. So I was like, oh, like I feel like I know them pretty well on this level, but I still don't have a main friend group. And like I still felt kind of sad about that. But I guess sophomore year was still an improvement, but I guess there was one thing that was like on my mind a lot. Was like I didn't have an internship. Because if you ever meet a CS person, they really care about school, like their grades and / order internship. Like some try to do both, and they're like, they try to have a good GPA and like a really good internship, and they're like gods. But for the most part, you kind of like, you're either like really consumed by like school and like just like surviving, or like you really care about working at Facebook or Uber or something. So, I mean, I guess I kind of had the school part down, but that wasn't really fulfilling. I remember like sophomore year, freshman, sophomore year, all I did was like school. Like that's why I didn't hang out with people, because I was just worried all the time. But then I was focused so much on school, I didn't even have time to prepare for internships. Like that's a completely different game. Like you have to like do these coding challenges, like coding problems basically on the side, and they're like not, they're like so distinct that it's kind of like its own class basically. So you kind of have to focus on that, do a personal projects to kind of beef up your resume so you can get an internship. Because like if you don't have an internship, a lot of companies don't want to hire you because you're not experienced. And you're kind of just like, dang, to get experience, I need experience. That's fantastic. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll do a personal project, but it kind of felt like I didn't know what I was doing. Like no one was really guiding or mentoring me. Like it seemed like all my friends knew what to do because they had an older figure told them, right? I guess I didn't have that, It was sad because I know, like, I knew people from like my church back home, but like they didn't like want to tell me anything, or we weren't close enough for them to actually show me the ropes of college or life. So I was kind of just like, crap. So basically sophomore year, I was like, it was better, but I was still very lost as a person. But I guess going into junior year, I decided to do small group leading, which is kind of like leading a Bible study for like some people in our like in ACM basically. And like I guess my focus was like other people in tech, but that's something that would I guess play a pretty big impact for the rest of college. But yeah, do you want to talk about your junior year?
Actually, to back up to sophomore year, because I missed something.
Okay.
You brought it up earlier, my FSA family in TASA. So like I got super lucky with like my FSA family, partially because like you're randomly assigned, and I was randomly assigned because like I didn't go to the thing to like assign preferences or anything. And so I just got super lucky that the people that were put into my family with me were like very like-minded. We weren't like awfully different in like ideals or like routine or like yada yada yada. So like there was that, and then also it was like there's the added like factor of like, oh, I wanted to be really intentional with like these people, right? Mm-hmm. So I put a lot of time and energy into like furthering like our relationship, and I like it's like it was very fulfilling, and it still is. Like it's just one of those like very serendipitous things that happened. Like I remember like people were like telling me about like what they observed by just like seeing this, and they're like, that is like a very rare occurrence of like something very genuine that happened. And like for me it was just like normal, because it's like, we would just like hang out, do random stuff, play pool, talk. Like it was like stuff that wasn't typical of an FSA family, because most of the time it's just like they encourage each other to drink and they like have fun drinking stories together, but it sort of like it started there and ended there. And so that was like something that really was like improving my sophomore year, despite the fact that like this friend group thing was like crashing and burning.
Yeah.
And then TASA also was something I got involved with because I was like,
TASA is Taiwanese Asian.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Taiwanese American Student Association.
And
FSA is
SAS.
Filipino Student Association.
And
VSA
VSA
is Vietnamese Student Association.
basically all Asian orgs.
Yeah.
And like TASA is something I got involved with, and I really like those people, and I was intentional with them as well. But like, I got involved with them because I wanted to become like an officer. So in like sophomore year, I was like a junior officer. It's like sort of like the stepping stones to become an officer.
Kind of like an apprentice, basically.
Basically,
Yeah.
and so like that was like a whole other experience because like I've never really like put my foot forward in like leading people before.
Mm-hmm.
And so like those things like improved my sophomore year in comparison to like this that was like, and so like that, and then fast like as that rolls into junior year is when sort of like the friend group thing bounces back because then everyone sort of just realizes, hey, we like saw each other like none, and like we don't really want to like let this like friendship go to waste, and it's like there's so much potential, like let's actually like dig deep and like figure out what was wrong and try to fix it.
Okay.
And I feel like we did dig pretty deep because now it's like it's basically recovered. Yeah. And so it just takes time. Like as I said, like good things happen, bad things happen. Like you just got to roll with the punches. Like even though that sounds very, very like defeatist mentality, I think like you can change the pace of things, but you can never change like the overall like. Actually, that sounds super like defeatist. Actually, I don't know how to describe this.
I mean, I guess like it goes back to what we were saying earlier, like make the most of what you have.
Yeah.
It's like when you're like rolling with the punches, it's not like you're giving in, but it's like given what you have, like how can you make the most out of it? Like,
Basically,
how can you
like
still
that.
try to like live up to your ideals, right? Yeah. So it's like because ideals are ideals, you can't fulfill them completely, but it's like you're still striving to reach that bar and direction.
Basically.
Yeah.
And so junior year was like when all these things came to fruition. And then I also became like a social dance TA at the end of sophomore year, which is like a super exciting thing for me because I was social dancing since freshman year. And finally now I'm like reaching this point in like skill level because like there's a social dance class at UT and I took in sophomore year.
Yeah.
And then like I auditioned and got in at the end of sophomore year. And it's like, for me when I took the class, like the social dance TAs were always like, they all seemed like as a cut above the rest, you know?
Yeah.
And they were like kind of like hang out in their own group and then sort of like do stuff together and like dance a bunch and stuff like that. And so when I got accepted, I was like, damn, you know, like I've reached the point in skill where like I can be considered like this level, you know? And then I got in and I was like, whoa, like I feel like I'm not even close to the level. I feel like it's stratified within like that, you know? And I felt like I just entered the bottom rung.
Like, did you think you were on a high level before?
Like when I got in, I felt it's partially because like I hadn't experienced very much yet, right? So like my scope of what is good and what is bad and what is possible is so limited.
Yeah.
And then I got in and I just experienced all these things and I was like, whoa, like there's like a whole like that was, like what happened to me in like up to sophomore year, that's chapter 1.
Yeah.
Like I just saw chapter 2, you know? And I was like, oh,
like,
shit.
And this book is fake.
Yeah, like you think it's chapter like I didn't even know it was chapter 1.
Like this is
Yeah, I thought it was like one chapter book.
Yeah. Like the book is thick and the chapters itself are long.
Yeah. And so I was like, whoa, fuck, you know? But then like that also transformed it because then I get like the experience of like learning as well as teaching people. And then there's like for me, the weirdest thing of when I first became TA was like power dynamic, right? Because I've always been on the receiving end of this power dynamic. I've always been a student. I've always been like a follower. I've never been a leader. And so the first time that I was a leader, I was like, oh shit, you know, people are looking up to me rather than like I'm looking up at someone else.
Yeah.
And so that was like really wild for me. And junior year was like a bounce back in a lot of different proportions.
Yeah.
Like just a lot of things were continuing. And then also junior year, I got my FSA like FSA is like sort of like a lineage. It's built upon like just like continuing your generation, right?
Yeah.
And so like that junior year is when I got like my own littles.
Okay.
And that was like my first taste of like mentoring a person. Because like I got really close to one of my littles and they were like, I don't want to call them a lost freshman, but they felt like one.
Yeah. To you.
To me.
Yeah.
And so like I never even thought that I was mentoring them. It was just sort of like I was just there for them.
Yeah.
And so it never occurred to me that like I would impart something onto them or like anything of value. I just thought like, hey, I'm just being a good friend by being there for them.
Yeah.
You know? And so I like indirectly mentored them. Like I wasn't like sort of like ham-fisting my ideals at them or anything. It was just sort of like, you know, being around them, just like talking about what I like to talk about with Alex and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then junior year is also like when we started living together.
Yes.
And so that was like something else too, because like for me, at this point, freshman year, sophomore year, I lived with like people I considered friends, but like it never transcended anything but just like surface level friendship. Mostly because we didn't click. It's not that they were bad people. Like all of my roommates prior to Alex were like good people. It's just that, you know, some people aren't meant to click.
Yeah.
Like one of my friends likes to say this a lot. Like you only connect with like 10% of the people you meet. Is like sometimes you don't even like go on to talk to these people that you connect with. So like the numbers is driven down even more.
Yeah. They slip through the cracks.
Exactly. And so when me and Alex like first moved in, we had like some problems. It was like vaguely similar. Actually, it was like very similar to like his first roommate situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like our parents got into like a arguing match.
Yeah.
And then my dad got really heated. And then yeah. It was just like diffused really randomly. I don't even remember exactly how.
Yeah, I think I apologized. And
I think I did too.
You did too, because I think we both understood where each side was coming from.
Yeah.
We kind of left it like that. I mean, I know like obviously like, you didn't have positive feelings toward my mom. And I knew your dad didn't really like my parents I don't know if he disliked me, but he was like, I don't want you to room with like that kid because he's related to like the parents.
Oh yeah, that was like a thing.
So I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know if I like this man either, you know?
Yeah,
I felt hurt by being like, it's like
associated negatively.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that.
I was just like I think at this point I was kind of like, I'm not gonna let myself be ashamed of my parents, you know?
Yeah, and that's that's good to think.
Yeah, and I was also just like, I'm also tired of people like looking down at me because my parents love me, you know? Like I should never have to apologize for that.
Yes.
So, I think what helped is we actually talked about it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because usually I always just sweep things under the rug, you know? I think that also hurt a lot with my freshman year roommate. Like I have never to this day even talked about what happened in that situation. But I think we kind of talked about...
We reconciled really quickly.
Yeah.
Because what was going through my head is I didn't want to let that, like, what happened between our parents damage our relationship.
Yeah, yeah. Because, like, yeah, we never had a problem with each other.
Yeah.
It was just... It wasn't even, like, both of our parents had a problem with each other. It was just mainly my mom and, like, his dad.
Yeah.
I don't even think my mom really cared or knew. Like, honestly, like, she got over it real fast. She's like, oh, his parents are pretty polite, you know? But obviously, like, what she did was, like, if you just meet someone, like, you shouldn't yell at them.
Yeah.
But I think, like, I mean, honestly, I had pretty low standards. I was like, you know, I don't even know if I'm going to live with this guy next year because of my mom, you know? But hopefully things will go smoothly and I don't have to find another roommate, you know? Because, like, this roommate situation, like, in the past couple of years hurt me so much that I was considering just graduating a semester early. Like, I was like, I'll just live by myself, like, far away, like first semester senior year. It's not like I hang out with people anyway. I'll just graduate, chill for a semester, then hopefully find a job, you know? So like when I knew I was dreaming, it was like, oh, I can like graduate on time, you know, or just graduate like with everyone else. Because like I don't have to feel ashamed of this anymore. So seeing that, I was like, shit, like not even that can be fulfilled. But I think it was good because like, I mean, when we like reconciled about the situation, we weren't like even mad at each other. It kind of just happened.
Yeah, like, again, like, I get being yelled at is, like, not a good first impression, but, like, I understood, like, where I fucked up, like, and, like, same, vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So it's not, like, I'm just, like, angry, you know? It's not, like, I'm not just, like, holding grudge, like, thinking, oh, I didn't do any wrong.
Yeah. So... I guess that the situation was just like our apartment's designed like kind of dumb. So like, his roommate has like his room is like our rooms are on the same side of the wall. So like, instead of like there being like both rooms having a window, like his room is facing the back. So there's like a pretty big window. My room is facing the front. It's also facing like a hallway. so then this window is kind of small, it's very dark. So my parents kind of felt like, oh, they're taking advantage of us again, you know. So like I think honestly, like you just were just like, oh, you just didn't really think about it. You just picked that room.
Yeah.
My parents are just like, you know, I think they've had bad roommate situations, so then they're just like, they saw the worst, so they were mad. So then like my mom was she was like kind of yelling, kind of being really passive aggressive, not a good combination. So it was pretty awkward, but then I think like we kind of just like, we were just chill with each other, right? Like
Yeah.
I was just like, I just want to like not be a stranger like the last two roommates.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't even asking to be close, you know. I just wanted like a good relationship. But then, I mean, something like I think that connected us, like even before like we roomed together, was like knowing that we both felt these feelings in high school of like loneliness and like how we really value friendships and relationships. So like I think we both knew that we liked talking about that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Like we liked having you know, quote unquote deep conversations. We both like talking about like random topics.
Ooh, one thing that was like a major driver for us to talk at all is that like in my roommate situation in sophomore year, like because we weren't like good friends and it was just like it felt kind of awkward to talk to each other but not entirely awkward. We would never use the living space.
Oh yeah, dude, my living room sophomore year wasn't even the living room. It was just empty. There wasn't any furniture.
He's not like exaggerating. Like it was legit. Like I have visited. It was like legitimately empty. They had zero furniture. It was like not even bare bones.
Yeah,
it was nothing. It was empty.
It was morale low. We just gave up, like, because I think one guy was just not cooperative and he just didn't care, and then the other guy didn't care, and I'm passive, so I just didn't say anything.
And so like one major goal I had for myself was like I want to be able to use the living room.
Yeah.
In like some capacity. Like I don't have to be there all the time, but like I want to like be there and not have it be awkward. And so that was like a major driver because then we started talking a lot about furniture and like what should we do, and then we started talking about other random stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And then I remember we had to drive around, so I guess we kind of bonded for that. I just remember like, yeah, I guess we basically kind of got close. I wouldn't say we were like actually close, but we were definitely on that like in that direction through this process. And then we talked more. We got like kind of like random deep talks. And then I remember you were kind of just like, I think randomly you're like, who would you invite to your wedding, right? I was like, I don't know, because honestly I'm kind of like, even now I'm just like.
Wait, I thought you said that to me.
Oh really?
Really?
Or someone said it to somebody.
Okay, someone said it to someone.
That doesn't, okay. But basically, I didn't know for sure because I was kind of just like, I don't know if I'm gonna get married. You know, like it's not trending toward that way. You know, but then I guess you were like, I would invite like my close friend, like kind of like you. And I was like, oh, like we're close, I guess. Because like I guess at the time I was like, I'm just really scared of like calling people close if they don't actually consider me close. Because like my high school friends, like I thought we were close, but then like they would hang out and not invite me. And one time they're literally just like, oh, like we don't invite you because your mom's too overprotective. And the other time they're like, oh, we just forget about you, haha, you know. And I was like, dang, like that really stung, you know.
Yeah.
So after that, I was kind of just like, I just couldn't call somebody a friend unless they said it first. But honestly, it's like, even if it's like comes to that, it's like, are you really even friends at that point? So when he said that, I think like things got better. Like I'm not trying to brag about a roommate situation. It's just like, it just means a lot to both of us because like we came in with rose-colored lenses. It wasn't fulfilled, and then kind of seeing like it ended up being fulfilled in some way. Yeah, was really encouraging. But yeah, we ended up talking about what happened with our parents. So I think like we both understand each other's parents a lot more now. Like obviously like our parents don't need to be buddy because we're just roommates. Yeah. But like, you know, I think just understanding the other side and having empathy was something like I guess we both learned to like have like as. And I guess it was like lacking in our previous situations. Yeah, for sure. Like, well, honestly, I probably should have talked to my first roommate about what happened, right? But then honestly, in the end, I just saw him as like he's the bad one in the situation. Like, not just what happened with like our moms, but like he's just really super inconsiderate. But like honestly, like I knew he was like struggling with community. Like he was kind of lonely too. Like he went to like some business associate meeting and he kind of felt like no one cared. And then I didn't really open up back, or like I didn't really like comfort him like enough because I was kind of just like whatever about him. But like there was opportunity, but like I just didn't take it at the time because like I just didn't want to, you know. But honestly, like I think that really helped junior year, because now I had an outlet, especially
Yeah,
outside of.
yeah, I had an outlet too because we are now able to decompress our situations to each other whenever something like bullshit happens or like something good happens or
Yeah, and I think yeah, we were also like we're pretty similar, but we're also kind of different, right? Like mainly in like religious backgrounds. Like I'm Christian, he's atheist, and we had different ways of how we approach college was a little different. Like as you said, like your desire to not experience high school is greater than your introvertism, and my introvertism was greater than my desire to not experience high school. So it's kind of like we were on similar wavelengths, but it was different, right? So I felt like we were able to like kind of expand each other's worldviews while not being too different, where it was like tense, you know. So that was pretty helpful. Junior year was when I was kind of just like, hey, that's when I really started opening up to other people, right? Because before I was kind of just like, I just really didn't feel like I was close to anyone. Like, I didn't know what anyone's problems were. I was only invited to the open invite stuff. Sometimes I wasn't even invited to the open invite stuff. Like, I remember one night I wasn't invited to some like housewarming apartment party or whatever, and everyone else was. I think honestly the real reason is I just didn't show up in the invite list on Facebook. But I took it personally, you know, because I was kind of like, I've been here for 3 years. Or this was gonna be my 3rd year, and like, why am I still not invited to this stuff? I remember I was ranting to Ben. Maybe that was one of the first times like we were actually ranted, and then it was good at the moment, but then I kind of held it in my heart. I was mad for like until like late October when we went on like a fall retreat, and after that I was like, I finally opened up to some people, and this is my first time opening up, so it was difficult. And sometimes like when I feel like now when I open up, I'm always like very it's almost, I won't say it's intense, but it's like I say a lot because like I like hold it, like I don't really keep people updated like how I'm feeling at the moment goes. So I kind of just like, I don't say anything, and then I burst it out, and then like only for like you and maybe like my high school friends, sometimes I'll like kind of say what's going on. But even for the high school friend, it's like, since we're in a different state, it's hard. But yeah, I remember when I opened up, like they were like, hey, you're not alone. And that really stood out to me because I was like, oh, it's not just like weird, awkward people like me who like struggle with loneliness. It's like everybody does, you know, but it's like no one just says anything, like how I didn't say anything. So junior year was honestly, I would say that was like the best year of college because I was pushing myself through small group. Like that was the first time I had to lead something. I had to lead Bible study, and like I was so nervous for that because I was like, I know some people were like super, they know their Bible a lot, they're super Christian. I'm just like, what if they think I'm a fraud? You know, fraud. Like, I just get scared. It's like that vegan video you showed me.
Oh my!
Like, there was some video basically in short, like they're like trying to say there's like 5.
We're talking about it's a video made by
Jubilee
Project.
Yeah,
and it's a 5 versus 1 game where it's like all 6 of them claim to be like X trait, and then the 5 people try to discover who's the like not the one person who's not that, and so it's like 5 vegans versus 1 non-vegan, and like there's this one vegan person who's like controlling the whole like conversation, and she's like sort of like arbitrating like who is vegan and who is not, and one of the dudes who was like vegan, one of the 5, she like grilled him down to the ground to the point where he's like, am I even a vegan? And it was so like just
disheartening.
I was like, this is literally the reason why people don't like vegan people.
Yeah, and then I was afraid that was gonna happen to me as a Christian. Ironically, we watched the Christian video. That was a lot more. I wouldn't even say it was toxic.
Like the Christian video was really calm.
Yeah,
it was like the vegan videos where it was like really intense.
Like even as a Christian, I thought the Christian video would be what the vegan video was, but it wasn't. But anyway, back to the main point. Like I was like really scared of that, but like I was like kind of pushing myself. I learned what it meant to like care and love on people I didn't really like that much, or if I was annoying, and like, yeah. So I think something that also really happened was like, I went on this urban project for my ministry. It's called Houston Chinatown Urban Plunge, so H Cup for short. And that time we actually talked about faith and ethnicity a lot, and it was pretty eye opening because that's something like AC had talked about before. That's something I thought about, but I never really have been like immersed in it. And like, yeah, it wouldn't even be strange to say that changed my life. So then coming after that, I was like, I felt really excited to like serve more in my ministry, so I applied for like leadership. So like, so I guess like they call it coordinators, but it's basically like an officer position. So like this year I am like a coordinator
As a senior.
as a senior. So as a senior, I'm an admin and communications coordinator. Basically, I just do logistics and the stuff nobody wants to do to support my ministry, which is a whole nother story. But that's still ongoing right now. But so yeah, I think junior year was a lot of ups, but then it randomly crashed in April. Honestly, I think it was just too much was going on, and then I guess even though with all these like growth and stuff like that, I still felt like I didn't belong, you know. And I was kind of like, bro, I'm a junior. Like, why is this still happening? I mean, at this point, like I recognized I had friends, right? Like I was friends with you. I had some other friend in ACM who's also a CS major that I'm pretty close with. I finally had an internship, so I didn't have to feel ashamed of myself whenever people ask like, what are you doing this summer? But yeah, even then I was like, the thing I desired the most, like a friend group, something to belong, still wasn't there. And honestly, I think it's mainly just because like friend groups are already forums. It's kind of hard to break in, or like I didn't want to, but I was kind of just like, dang. But something that would really help was I had something we call a discipler, so it's kind of like a spiritual mentor. Yeah, we like I guess we prayed a lot and we kind of just talked a lot about how things are going, and yeah, that really helps me end junior year, I guess, relatively strong. Like I kind of talked to him about how I was feeling and like toward the end, and then yeah, I felt really encouraged basically, and yeah, so then I guess that leads into senior year. But yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like junior year was like an uptick, and it was just like bouncing back of like things that kind of sucked in sophomore year. But then junior year, like the major L for me is that like I was like an officer for TASA.
Yeah.
And like our whole officer board was like very ambitious. And so there's a lot of clashing ideals, a lot of clashing personalities. And like in the beginning, everyone's trying to be buddy, but then as like things go on and like just different ideals clash, it just started getting really like toxic, and it was just like draining a lot of my energy. Because like I put forth a lot of energy into this because I was like, I really, really want to like make something happen, like leave an impact, right?
Yeah.
And then it didn't end up happening because like there's too many competing ideas, right? There's too many things trying to be done at once.
Yeah.
And so it just ends up being like you know, wavelengths in physics. They end up being destructive upon each other rather than constructive.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that was like a huge stressor for me. And I was just like, this is so dumb.
Yeah.
But it's just like at some point I just like gave up. And that's when I felt like everyone had given up at that point, basically.
Yeah.
And that was just like, that was actually just felt like defeat.
Yeah.
And so that was like the only major downtick I can like think of on the spot right now. But like as basically like to round out this life story, right? Where I'm going from like someone who's like very, very like rose colored lens and developing into someone who like matures more and like sees more of like why this rose colored lens doesn't actually make sense.
Yeah. You're kind of becoming more cynical.
Yeah, but not in a bad way. Because like you're just like realizing
You're just growing up.
Yeah, you're growing up. You're like everything isn't optimism. Like reality kind of does suck, but like you have to make the most of what you have. And then junior year is like that vision fully realized. And like there was stuff that sucks and there's stuff that's good, right?
Yeah.
And so senior year is just more continuation of that. And I feel like senior year was like, I wanted to do a lot of things. There's a lot of things on my bucket list. Some of them I never even touched. Like one of the really cool things I did in sophomore year was was it junior year or sophomore year? It was sophomore year. I like emceed an event. And that was the first time I ever done something like that. I was so nervous in the beginning. And as the night went on, I like really like fell into the role. And then I was like, oh, I want to like MC more events. But then that never came to fruition. But like senior year for me was like trying a bunch of new stuff, like this podcast, for example. And
senior year.
Yeah, senior year was like a lot of trying new stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like one of the friend groups I really never tapped into that I'm hanging out a lot with more now is like my coworkers, like my social dance TAs. Like this is the first time like I've experienced like a very, very diverse like friend group. Yeah. Like people that are like of all different interests, all trying to do different things. It's not all like business, pre-med, like engineering people. It's like lots of different types of people. And so I was like, whoa, this is really cool. Mm-hmm. And so like I'm finally tapping into that. So it's just like a lot of new things again. But not in the same way that was freshman year where it was like, oh, I have to only do new things. It's like there's a lot of like continuation of things that are like tried and true.
Yeah, it's kind of like just because you experience something once or you learn something once doesn't mean you're a master in that.
Yeah.
You have to, you honestly have to keep on reflecting and trying those things to like understand it more. I want to even say understand completely because I don't think that's possible.
And at the same time while all this is happening, there's a lot of like introspection going on and like talking between me and Alex, and we're just like talking about like our ideals and stuff like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess kind of senior year, it's not over yet, so I'm not gonna go into as much detail as I went the first 3 years.
It's an ongoing story.
It's an ongoing story. I guess that's something we'll talk about more in detail, like after. We'll still do some podcast episodes for a bit after we graduate.
And then we're not sure what the future holds. We hope to continue it into the future, just like in different locales.
Yeah.
And just like, we'll do. It'll feel like we're hoping for like. Basically 2 podcasts under the same banner.
Under the same banner, yeah. And we kind of have a crossover episode once a year. But we'll worry about that later. But anyway, basically I guess the theme of senior year is actually like, instead of college, because college has kind of been up for me, but it's like very gradual. I guess first semester was definitely like everything came crashing, right? Like I did not get a return offer for my internship. And this was supposedly an internship, but like it wasn't supposed to be that rigorous. Like I was very pretentious for a CS person to say, but
I feel like you were
I expected to get an internship. But I guess I expected to get a full-time offer, and I didn't. And it wasn't like I did nothing at the job, but I guess honestly I wasn't the best employee. But I kind of was like, no one else is a super try-hard employee. Like, I should get a return offer, right? Like, I felt entitled, basically. So first semester, I was just looking for a job. I was getting rejected all the time. I didn't have time to do leak code or practice coding problems because I was trying to figure out this new ACM role. And yeah, that was just really hard on me because I felt like a loser, I still don't have a friend group I belong, even to this day. So I was kind of just like... Basically, I was kind of like, it was a snowball effect. I was like, every single part of my life sucks, And the parts that like didn't suck that much, I was like, I made it suck a lot because I was like really upset. So I got lucky. Like the day after the first semester ended, I interviewed, and I guess they liked me enough to be like, hey, we want you to have the job.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm done with this process. I'm accepting. See you later, guys. But so I guess like that first semester was pretty tough. And now even then, like I'm still trying to figure things out. Like being a coordinator hasn't been easy, but something I've realized like is really important to just try. Even if things don't work the way you want or they don't go perfectly, there's beauty in failure for sure. You learn something from failure, and I started to learn what that really means. Aside from like saying like that type of stuff without like living it out. Like, trite statements, like things that are cliches, they have meaning because they're true. And that's why they're said so often, because it's true. You just have to experience it for yourself. I'm still trying to figure it out as a senior. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, the reason why we're going into so much detail for each of these years is because like, I want you to know that like each year of college isn't a smooth road. It's not just freshman year will suck. And things will get better. Like even now, like I wouldn't say my life is super great. Like as I'm recording this podcast, things are pretty good, right? But just like the other past episodes we record, like I was still going for a lot of the stuff I mentioned before. Like even like in maybe like next week or in a month later, like I'll still be struggling again. But I guess like you gotta just like learn from what's going on with you and like just recognize that like you can't get everything you want in life, but there's still beauty in like the things you think are failures basically. So I guess something like Ben and I just wanted y'all to know is like just because like freshman year hasn't turned out well doesn't mean sophomore year won't. And just because freshman year was great doesn't mean sophomore year necessarily will be, you know?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean junior year necessarily will be. I think there's an expectation like, oh, I can just have fun.
I feel like there's the expectation is like, if one year sucks, every other year will be good.
Yeah, and the 1 year is good, every other year will be good.
Yeah.
Like, or even like college, is this the only time to have a good life, right? Because like you graduate college at like 21, 22.
Exactly.
You hopefully have 60 years left to live, you know, give or take. Yeah, your life shouldn't be just like, you know, misery or make like God or like the world is like, hey, you had all this fun, like college, it's time to make up for it by suffering, you know? I know for some people, like, it's not great, it's really lonely, but, yeah, I guess, like, something like, I guess we wanted to do that, maybe that we felt like the blog posts weren't offering was just, like, kind of, like, how to, like, live and learn from, like, what you don't get or want, you know?
Also, like, reality is, like, harsh, but that doesn't mean your approach to reality has to be equally as harsh.
Yeah, for sure. Like, even though, like, as a person, like, right now, even though I still feel like I'm not getting, like, I don't have this friend group where I feel like I still, like, have very low confidence in my abilities and, like, self-worth, is, like, I'm still trying, you know? Like, I'm not dropping, like, everything and just, like, hermiting in my room, even though that would be, I'm very tempted sometimes. I know that, like, that would be really sad, you know? Like, that would make college, that would end college on a poor note. And, like, it's kind of like, yeah, if you end on the poor note here and you transition to the real world after that, it's going to be hard to get out of that slump. So, yeah, just even, I guess I've been rehashing this a lot, but, like, just because you don't get what you want doesn't mean that thing was worthless.
Yeah, like, we're rehashing this a lot for, like, a reason. And the reason is that, like, you can't just, you know, like, the blog posts, like, they're good in the sense that, like, they got us on this topic to begin with, right?
Yeah.
They say, like, a point that matters.
Yeah.
Is that we wanted to convey, like, the full story. And, like, even though we left out details of our life, like, we got, like, the point across that, like, every year is its own story. And it builds into, like, a greater story. Just like what I was talking about with, like, chapter 1, chapter 2. Like, chapter 1 is its own little arc. And chapter 2 is its own little arc, and chapter 3 is its own little arc, which builds a whole arc of the story, right?
Yeah.
Of this book.
They're like sub-arcs of this arc of college, which is in the book of your life, you know? The story of your life. So, yeah, I guess if you bothered to stay this long, we're grateful. I guess you hopefully found our story interesting. But, yeah, to any freshman or senior who feels really lost in this world, it's okay. Honestly, we still feel kind of lost, and we're still trying to figure things out. But, yeah, like, I think this whole episode is really, like, it's about the journey, you know, not necessarily the destination. And, like, you may not get what you want in life, but honestly, like, what you get, like, that's unexpected, the unexpected things you get are really worth it, and they make it, like, honestly, it makes you want to continue more, you know? It makes you want to continue to pursue whatever you think is great. But yeah,
Basically.
Yeah, I guess kind of like wrapping up this episode.
This is very long, but this is our, like,
one of our longer episodes. But
to wrap up this verbal blog post.
Yeah, yeah, college is a good time for sure. It may not be for everyone, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, like, something I guess I want people to realize that college is a transition period in your life. It's not. Don't think of it as like the grand stage, you know, like things are not building up to this point. Things are building. This is part of this is part of the process that your life is building up to.
This is the rising action.
This is the rising action. I think people confuse it for the climax. So that's something I want, I guess, our listeners, our two listeners, to take away from. Yeah, just don't. If things don't turn out the way you want right now, it's not game over. You know.
Yeah.
Even if you're 40. It's not game over, you know? Like, there's so much life to live, and there's so much beauty to see.
Yeah.
That, I just want y'all to, like, something like I've been learning still, so I'm not a master at all, but something I want all of us to do is, like, continue trying to see value and worth in the experiences we go through, you know? Not everything is about the result.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, same. Like, I think you said it all basically. Like, I think a lot of people are way too results, like, they're too results minded. Like, they care too much about like the end result. Like, oh, like my friend group will be like this, and then I want it to end up be like this, and then pictures like this. But then it's like how you get from here to there to there to there to there is like what really makes it meaningful. Like, it colors in your picture basically. Like, if you take a picture with your friends and it's just like, oh, you're just posing to pose, and there was like no actual fun being had there, then it feels like just a colorless photo.
Yeah.
But then when you have like a story to tell with this photo that's associated, it's like it colors in and adds context to like not just the photo but your own life.
Yeah.
It adds its own like quote unquote flavor.
For sure. And yeah, so I guess actually wrapping up this podcast, we're not experts, but we just like talking, as you can see in this 1.5 hour long podcast. But yeah, we just hope this podcast can just be, a lot of times people ask us like, why isn't your podcast more structured? Like, why isn't there, I guess this one actually had one specific topic.
Yeah.
But I guess like, why are you guys, how come it just kind of feels like, it just feels like a conversation that like we're just having, right? And that's actually what we want,
Yes.
Like, this is honestly just a raw conversation that I tend to have with just Ben or like some other friends. But as our listeners, like, I want y'all in on this too. I think it's really important to like share experiences and like life lessons. And like, I don't even know, like, I barely know anything, so I want to hear from other people too. I want to learn from like as many different types of people as I can. So yeah, that's kind of just like why we say we're Nuanced Nonsense, because like this is all very heartfelt and sincere stuff that we're saying, but it could also all be trash, But at the end of the day, this is just who we are as people, and this is what we have to learn and share. But yeah, so this is Alex,
And this was Ben,
and we're signing out.
Thank you for listening.